Rodri has won the 2024 Ballon d'Or, and this is old news already. Who would have thought a few years ago that he would have such a rise to the best midfielder in the world, or arguably the best player in the world? Therefore, did he actually earn it in this year? There is no question about the Man City player having his advantages in this Ballon d'Or race, but there was a clear sign of dissatisfaction from the fans, as everyone thought it should have been Vinicius under those spotlights and that he was, in fact, robbed of the Ballon d'Or. There is very rarely no debate about the classic question, who should have actually won it. For example, there was no discussion for Ronaldo in 2016, Messi in 2009, maybe Zidane in 1998, but Rodrigo certainly isn't in this group of players. There's a big debate here left to settle, and we are going to do exactly that, so grab your favorite snacks, drink something good, and enjoy the video. I can confidently say that the three favorites for this year are really clear: Vinicius Jr., Rodri, and Bellingham. They ended up as the top three, and in every website it is easily visible that they always end up as the Ballon d'Or's biggest favorites, sadly. Why sadly? Well, I definitely think that the other players deserve a clear argument for the top three, such as Carvajal. Played passionate and martial football for both Real Madrid and Spain throughout the complete season that was in fact entertaining to watch. Lamine Yamal. Looking purely at the facts, there is an inevitable chance that we will not see such a player again in our lifetime like Lamine. How many people on this earth can say that they have watched a 17-year-old Pele and 17-year-old Lamine Yamal? Well, you could probably count them on a finger. Lautaro Martinez. Top scorer of Serie A, top scorer of Copa America, won both, put the second star on Inter's crest, and hardly missed any games. That being said, even though I think that they must end up in this conversation, it even surprised me that Rodri was one of the top favorites as a defensive player. To win the Ballon d'Or isn't a narrative for defense-oriented players. For example, Emiliano Martinez won the Yashin Trophy. Having a historical season for the second time in a row, he somehow ended up being 18th on the rankings. Therefore, it doesn't make sense to put anyone mentioned here because there was no chance of them winning either way. All you could see in the media and betting sites was Bellingham, Rodri, Vinicius Jr. As I said in last year's video, the Ballon d'Or is now based on the season, not the year. And what triggered the making of this video is that everyone started to get on Vinny's back after his amazing start in this new season, especially with that comeback hat-trick against Dortmund. Everything blew up on his Instagram, leaving other favorites that I mentioned entirely in his shadow. I don't have anything against Vinny. I think he is a phenomenal player and will end his career winning this award. I'm just mentioning this to not get people confused. Alright, let's start it off with the stats. Usually the peak candidates of the Ballon d'Or are forwards, so the first topic for stats is always goal contributions. Now, Rodri's position is making it a little bit complicated here, but we will just compare Bellingham and Vinny and put Rodri simply in the middle, so to say a second place, because I think if Rodri played a forward position like he plays defensive midfield, he would be just as good as the Real Madrid candidates. Why? I will tell you that a little bit later. Moving on to Jude and Vinny, I don't usually look at just goals or just assists, as I think that they are equally important, so I just put them together and Bellingham turned out on top. I don't know how the fans forgot that he equaled Cristiano's record with 10 goals in first 10 La Liga games and laid the foundation of finishing third in La Liga's top scorers. All of this while officially playing the number 10 position. Incredible. Which means Bellingham first, Rodri second, and Vinicius third. The stat that is even more important in my eyes is the average match rating. It is analyzed by professionals that calculate every move of a player and give you their clear grades. The one that had the worst of the best performances was Vinicius Jr. with an average rating of 7.45 per match. The first place though was decided by just 0.01, with Bellingham getting 7.88 and Rodri getting 7.87. It is incredible how close this was, and I think it makes sense to end up like this because they both gave 110% on the pitch. And this is eventually the reason why I said Rodri would be as good as them in a forward position. He is one of the greatest defensive midfielders, best midfielder today, and the ratings show it. The Spaniard had even the best average in the Premier League last season. Now, going to the Brit, something really noticeable was Bellingham's defensive efforts. A few that are still stuck in my head are against Man City in the Etihad, for example, or in the Euros running over 10 kilometers per match, putting them ratings by a margin higher than Rodri's. I think Jude deserved this one. On the other note, you could say that Rodri played a few more games, which led to the worse or better ratings, so we are going to put minutes played as the last stat for this section. It shows how much you were there for your team, and the main reason is that it's one of those stats you could take to compare different positions. And to be fair to everyone, we will choose minutes per game instead of minutes altogether. You can guess who was last place. Vinicius Jr. Looking only on the side of stats, it doesn't make any sense to have him as the complete favorite as the media drew him. On the other note, we have the midfielders, again closely battling it out with a 1 minute difference. Bellingham on 88 minutes per game this time and Rodri on 87, again getting that tight second place. If you noticed in the ratings, they also had an 88 and 87 in it. Maybe the biggest coincidence that happened on my channel, or is it just a big conspiracy theory that the Illuminati has something to... I'm just kidding. Bellingham clearly takes the throne with the statistics, with Rodri and Vinny taking theirs in the same style. With the next topic, it is achievements, or to be exact, the trophies won from the three players. Bellingham and Vinny won the same trophies with a historical 15th Champions League for Real Madrid, La Liga and a Spanish Super Cup to add, but Bellingham getting the Euro silver medal. On the other side, Rodri won a historical 4th Premier League in a row, the Euros, FIFA Club World Cup, and the UEFA Super Cup. I think it's pretty easy to guess who ends up at the top here. An international trophy would always be something at the top of my list to win as a player. Maybe because I come from a smaller country, but I think even England would be pretty happy if they win one. Anyways, there's no debate here. I guess you can say the Club World Cup and Super Cups should count to the season before, but it was won in the last season, so I can't do anything about it. But I would also rather take only a Euro and a Premier League than Champions League and La Liga. Is this a hot take? Write your thoughts of this in the comments. So, as I said, Rodri, Bellingham, Vinicius Jr. As we have gone through 2 of the 3 criterias, there's one left here. Did y'all know that one of the official criterias for the Ballon d'Or is quote class and fair play? Even though I've never heard about it, I think that certainly it must be one of the criterias. It is a gentleman's game in the long run. If the beautiful game wasn't meant for ladies and gentlemen, the ceremonies wouldn't have a literal dress code for suits. And there's a stat in how we can look at the class and fair play of the players. Those are disciplinary stats. However, there's a big problem here before we get to that. It has been clear maybe one day before the ceremony that Vinicius wouldn't win the Ballon d'Or, so the Brazilian still stayed classy and ended up not even going to the event, which eventually led to no one attending the event from Real Madrid.
Vinicius Jr. will not win the Ballon d'Or. Vinicius Jr. will not travel to Madrid, and Real Madrid are absolutely furious with this decision made by those who vote and decide for the Ballon d'Or.
I will not comment much on this, but one thing I will say. Just imagine what would happen in the media, looking from the usual fans' perspective, if Rodri and Man City decided to do the same. I think it was showing a big lack of class, and the on-field stats make it visible. All 3 of them having a fouls per game ratio around 1. It is expected that a winger has the least and the defensive midfielder has the most here. It is really complicated to guess here who was the most disciplined because of the difference of positions, but I've dug deeper in the stats and found this. Even though Rodri had the most cards shown to him out of everyone, he had 2 shown because of unmannerly reasons. For example, time wasting, and most notable here, argumenting with the referee. Bellingham had 3 times more the cards of the same reason, even a red card because of an argument, and Vinicius had 5 times more than Rodri. Therefore, it takes the Manchester City player the first place on both ways you could look at this criteria without probably even trying. Going back to the first criteria though, you could also say that the impressive and decisive character of the players are vital here, where the arguments should be hidden on the sides of Vinicius Jr. and generally the Real Madrid players, as they did eliminate Rodri's side in their own backyard to eventually win the Champions League. But this is also in Rodri's shadow. One of the most remarkable things that happened this season was Bellingham's bicycle kick against Slovakia. You don't often see a match winner be that good in the knockout stage of an international tournament, which showed his already mentioned character. But Rodri's unbeaten streak under 90 minutes of 74 games before the FA Cup final was a without a doubt historical achievement from the midfielder. City lost around 5 games last season, and all of them without the Spaniard. And guess who isn't available for Pep right now, as he lost 4 games for the first time. You guessed it right. Well, if that isn't the most impressive, or rather to say the most decisive of all of them, well, I would be lost for words. But just for the benefit of the doubt, we will still put Vinicius here first, Bellingham second, and give Rodri his first 3rd placement. We will now add all of the criteria up, give the first place 3 points in each category and 1 point to the last, consequently fighting the final rankings doing so. Vinicius ends up having the backseat of this complete video. Even though we gave him 3 points now at the end, he can revive his ranking with his continuity of lacking stats. But after the changes in placements shortly before, in the driver's seat, however, there's a big dilemma to say the least. Both of the main characters of this video end up having the same amount of points, sharing 9 points out of possible 12. Maybe on one note Rodri would have more goal contributions as a forward, on the other maybe Bellingham with a little bit of luck would have won the Euros. Also, there are no stats that show who's the more entertaining one, or the more humble one, or I have no idea anymore. Did Rodri deserve it? Absolutely. Was the Ballon d'Or rigged, or was it all a setup?
Stop it. Get some help.